welcome back to the LOTD pod. This is side two of our 1973 discussion. We ranked 12 albums from 1973 that are my personal favorites from the year. And now we will discuss what didn't make the list as far as albums that were near misses. And then we'll discuss what songs also are on my 1973 playlist. I'm here with Richard.
Richard Shirk from Oakland, California, multiple time zones representing.
That's right. I'm in the Midwestern time zone. I'm in Iowa. This is Flick. And so as far as albums, so I just want to get the elephant out of the room first. I know Dark Side of the Moon. There's probably plenty of people that this would be one of their all-time favorite albums.
Yeah, and I noticed that didn't show up on your list. So
Yeah.
Well, why is that, Flick? Why do you hate Dark Side so much?
I don't hate it. I'm certainly not the biggest Pink Floyd fan in the world, but I don't dislike them. I don't think I would say I dislike them in any way, but just not one of my all-time bands or anything like that. I do like the album, but I guess I've never understood why it's as big a deal as it is. I really do love side two of Dark Side of the Moon. If that was the album, I think I'd be more into it overall. I love Us and Them. I love Brain Damage. But side one, maybe not as much.
Huh. Well, I love this album, and the more I listen to Pink Floyd, the more I like them. And I guess I never really, I didn't start out as a Pink Floyd fan, but I think
you gravitated.
late 30s, early 40s. I'm 40 now, so it's ongoing. I think for whatever reason, when I started playing a lot of bass guitar, I started getting into Pink Floyd, and maybe some other things. I am in Oakland, California. But yeah, it's a weird record and an experimental record. It's totally improbable that this is the most, I don't know, like the most selling record. Probably not, but definitely one of them. And
I think it is the biggest selling record of all time, or at least it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, it just has some magic to it that ties all the songs together in a certain vibe, very 1973 vibe, and I think about Skylab a lot when I listen to Pink Floyd.
Yeah, and I should also mention Breathe. Breathe is on side one, and I like Breathe a lot. So it is a really good album. I don't know if there's any year where it's a top 5 album for me, but I think there are certain years where it would have been a top 10. 1973 just wasn't that year.
That's cool. We don't have to like the same stuff, man.
I didn't say I didn't like it. It's probably a top 20 for me, and 20 is pretty good for this year.
Yeah, and I think Pink Floyd is really cool band, and yeah, another one of those experiences that highlights quarantine. Like I don't get to listen to the really weird Pink Floyd stuff on the stereo. It's got to be on headphones.
Yeah, and yeah, I do like the album. It's just not a top 12. So, just wanted to clear the air on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, also a really good album that didn't quite make it. Totally.
Yeah, I think with that one, let me look at the track listing. I've always wanted to like this record, and I've had this record for probably about 30 years. I've never been able to get into it.
Really? I love the title track. I love Benny and the Jets. I don't. Candle in the Wind isn't really so much my jam. But you know, I think yeah, you talk about over the course of the years what happens with an album, and I would say I would say I like it more as an overall album than I did in my younger days. In my younger days, you know, I probably thought this was like a double album that had two good songs on it, but there are a lot of lesser known tracks that are pretty good here as well.
Okay, so if I were to, give my reevaluation, and there was one track that a lot of people don't know about that you think is really cool, where would I go?
Okay, let me take a look at the track listing to fill in the blanks here in just a
But I,
moment.
I would say while you're doing that, that for an album that maybe only has a few good tracks, like those are really good tracks. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and
Yeah.
Benny and the Jets.
One
I,
funeral for a friend. Not a lesser known track, but a good one. Yeah, let me see. I'm not good with the titles here. I can't. This is one of those albums where I look at the title and I can't think of what the song is.
don't worry about it. Yeah, just get back to me later. We'll have the the Elton John update
Yeah.
on a,
Well, anyway, for
on
for
another time.
now, for now, Benny and the Jets, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding. Those are the emphasis tracks for me.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think I love rock and roll music, and I love a good rock and roll movie. And I think Rocket Man is the only rock and roll movie where I watched it and I liked the artist less.
Yeah, I don't like that movie. If you're basically saying you don't like that movie, or are you just saying it just made you not like Elton John so much?
Kind of all around, it kind of confirms some of my opinion about Elton John's 70s records. There's some good tracks here and there, but like it could kind of take the albums or leave them.
Yeah, I think he had his share of bad tracks and didn't have much good in the '80s at all. Um, and after listening to his entire box set recently, I think I can say that with some authority because it exposed me to a lot of the stuff I'd never bothered to listen to. But when the good tracks are really good, like I think the good tracks are great. The As far as the movie goes, my biggest qualm with it is that they used the songs in a way to tell the story of Elton John's life, while Bernie Taupin was the guy writing the lyrics. So it would seem that the lyrics really tell the story of Bernie Taupin's life more than they tell the story of Elton John. So the whole premise of the movie was kind of flawed in that way for me.
Yep. What else didn't make it to your 1973 list?
Okay, and other close calls. Closing Time by Tom Waits. We talked about this actually last week. It's not the biggest Tom Waits fan, but this is my favorite Tom Waits album.
It's a really good record. It's
Yeah,
his first record.
yeah. I hope I Don't Fall in Love with You. My favorite track on that. It has old 55 on it as well. Martha. A lot of great stuff on that. It's a great album, and it's an album that uh, I guess it was always because of the line in Old 55, the sun's coming up, I'm riding with Lady Luck. I always made a point to listen to this album on one of those, any of those nights where you basically stayed out all night.
Yeah,
And so, like any time where you're seeing the sun come up but you haven't gone to sleep yet, like I always made a point to listen to this album. I always thought it worked really well that way.
totally. I love early Tom Waits, and it's a period of his music that took me a while to get into. I think, as with a lot of college radio people, the kind of entry point is like the early to mid 80s, kind of what a lot of people kind of think of as like the weirder stuff, like Rain Dogs. But when he's still trying to do like the like Laurel Canyon kind of singer
Singer
songwriter
song.
stuff,
Yeah.
those are really cool too. I mean,
Yep.
you've got to be in the right mood for it, and you got to know what you're doing. But I have such a great memory of hearing that record, not for the first time, but um, when you hear a record that you really like and you hear it in the wild, in kind of like a improbable place. Um, I Closing Time has a great memory for me. Uh, we had my wife, my girlfriend at the time, Susan, who we'd taken a trip to Astoria, Oregon, which is still a very like sleepy, fog shrouded, like working port town, with lots of like interesting kind of like crusty, working sailors and stuff. And so we had gone into this bar on a dock, not late at night, but night enough, and sat down at this bar looking out at the ocean with the fog rolling in, and we noticed this album was on. Ordered a couple beers, and the guy next to us was like, cheers to you. And we looked over, and he's uh
And it's Tom Waits.
pretty much, I mean, he was like this crusty sailing guy with one hand and a hook, and drinking a beer, listening to Tom Waits at a bar. So it's like that's how it should be.
It has. Well, I mean, it's pretty much the feel that the album cover gives you, as well as the material on it. It's just that if you've never been in a bar room in your life, like maybe you wonder what is all this about. But
Yeah, it
if
was
you
kind of like
have,
the point of unification of Tom Waits. His artistic vision happened that night in Astoria, Oregon. So it was very, very special.
yeah, it all came together.
It all came together finally.
All right, and also in 1973, not only the debut of Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, although they didn't share the billing on the first album, but the second album, The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. So, Greetings from Asbury Park came out January 5th, 73. The Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, November 11th, 1973. A lot of great stuff on Greetings from Asbury Park growing up, Blinded by the Light, others. And, Wild, the Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle, of course, had Rosalita, one of his staples to this day.
Rosalita, solid tune.
Yes.
Yeah, I was listening to Blinded by the Light today when doing the research for this show, and yeah, definitely can hear where the boss is going. And for me, like, the boss really gets to, like, peak Bruce around Darkness and the River in Nebraska.
Oh, not on Born to Run?
No, not so much.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I
Well,
mean, I like it. It's just, I think that, and I don't even think that the best stuff made it onto Darkness. I think that you had to wait for the Promise box set with all the
sure.
B-sides.
Or tracks. A lot of it came out on tracks.
Yeah, that too. To really get the full picture of like what a great songwriter um and kind of arranger he is at that point. But I guess, and I'm not, I don't really like to, do any whataboutism with Bruce Springsteen, because, he's family. But I always wish with his early stuff, like Blinded by the Light, I think especially, I wish he would just, do a little bit of editing with his lyrics. And there's always just like so many words, trying to stuff all those words in there.
Well, he
And
was very more wordy in the early days.
yeah, and I think he could have cut like. I mean, he's gonna do what he wants because he's the boss. But
That's right.
I feel like later on he figured out the. I wouldn't say like the less is more, but I think a lot of early
There,
songwriters tend to like overwrite and
well, yeah, there's a balance. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of discussions that I've had on this show. Like talking a lot about how Neil does it. Neil Young. I just I just assume everybody knows who I'm talking about at this point, but I could be
uh,
talking about Neil Diamond, I guess. Uh,
Uncle Neil. And
yeah, Uncle Neil. The
just so
way
everyone knows, if we talk about Uncle Neil, it's Neil Young, and we would talk
that's right.
about the Diamond. That's Neil Diamond.
The Diamond. Yes.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about the infield in baseball. We're talking we're talking about Neil Diamond, but yeah. So yeah, just the way that Neil does it, it usually isn't very clever, but it's very to the core of the matter. Um, yeah, there's always a balance that you have to strike, where the head and the heart balance each other out. I think Springsteen found that, before too long.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, good for him for getting both of these albums out. I feel like these were all written in one big batch, and it was cool to have them
Yeah,
all
well,
put
so
together.
so looking at the lineup on Greetings from Asbury Park, actually not much of the E Street Band as we know them were on this album. Clarence Clemens on the album, Gary Talent, the bass player, on the album. None of the other familiar faces from the E Street Band were actually on the debut. And then when we go to the Wild Danis in the E Street Shuffle, then you have Clarence, you have Danny Federici.
Oh, Danny, yeah, right.
Yeah, you still don't have a lot of the mainstays of the E Street Band. You
Yeah,
don't.
you don't have Max for a while, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't have Roy Bittan yet until Born to Run. You don't have Little Steven. Yeah, so it's a work in progress still at this point.
And at one point, does Niels show up? Niels
Uh,
Lofgren.
let's find out. Let's just go through this.
I feel like he shows up on the river, right?
Yeah, so on Born to Run, you add in Roy Bittan, you add in Little Steven, you add in Max Weinberg on Born to Run. So it's getting close to like the standard E Street Band lineup. Then Darkness. See Darkness. You still don't have Nils. Let's see. He has to be on the river. So let me see. Let me just confirm it. He is not on the river either.
Huh.
Yeah, there's some trivia for you.
There you go. There you go.
I mean,
But yeah, 1973, if you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen, it was a fun year.
he is not even on Born in the USA.
Huh.
When in the world did Nils Lofgren join up? Well, I guess it wasn't until Tunnel of Love.
Well, there you go. Learn something new every day.
And you do. You definitely do. Okay. All right. So a lot of work with Neil by that point. One of the things we talked about last week, Trans, he was on that, as well as a lot of other stuff in the 70s. Okay, so other close misses. Side 3 by the Raspberries. One that maybe a lot of people don't agree with me, but I say give it a listen and see. I think a lot of the world is still sleeping on the Raspberries, but one of the great proto power pop bands, and Side 3 doesn't have any of the signature Raspberry radio tunes, but Tonight and Ecstasy, I think, are in their top 5 greatest songs, but not radio hits, not in the oldies rotation or anything like that. We talked about a little bit on I guess what we could call side one, Roxy Music, a couple of albums, Stranded, and I'm blanking on the other one. What's his other top?
For Your Pleasure.
For Your Pleasure. Both really good albums. Both maybe top 20. At least one of them I would say is in my top 20.
For Your Pleasure is just, for me, it's classic. Everything is working on that album. Brian Eno, his last album with Roxy Music, and he really goes out with a bang. I've always loved the crazy guitars in Roxy Music, Phil Manzanera, and yeah, I feel like Brian Ferry was kind of holding back a little bit on the first record, and he is totally in his groove by the time record number 2 comes out. And
that being said, though, Virginia Plain is maybe my favorite Roxy Music song off the first one.
It is good, obviously, but I mean, if you just listen to how Brian Ferry is singing, I don't feel like he's really found his full voice yet. He hasn't really found his shtick all the way.
You're not getting full Ferry yet.
Not until the second album, man. And he's still going. So
you're getting partial Ferry. You're getting half Ferry.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the, maybe not one of the last shows I saw before everything shut down, but one of the last handful of shows was seeing Brian Ferry, kind of touring behind some anniversary edition of Avalon, I think. Pretty special afternoon. But yeah, good year for Roxy Music. Yeah, and like we were talking about, kind of two sides of the same coin, where you have the last album with Eno, and then you have the first album without Eno. If you talk to Eno, he likes Stranded the best, but I don't know, maybe he had a bad experience.
Yeah, maybe well, maybe he has some regrets that he wasn't on it.
I think he was ready to leave. From all of my various rock and roll biographies, he was ready to be out of there.
I will say I don't want to tip my hand for when we do a 1974 show just yet. I will say he did seem to have material ready to go, though.
Yeah, like a good solid 4 albums worth.
Yeah. So more on that when we get to 1974.
Stay tuned.
Not that we're doing these in chronological order. We do these in random order.
Yeah, we'll be caught up by the year 2033.
That's right. Okay, so I don't know, Blue Ridge Rangers, we talked a little bit about recently. John Fogerty, Blue Ridge Rangers album. He did a lot of great country covers George Jones, Merle Haggard, and Hank Williams, Jimmy Rogers. Great album. Also not very known and not on Spotify. So don't try to look for it. You won't find it.
Don't even try.
Don't try it. Don't try it. It's like playing with fire. That's another one that I think maybe makes it in my top 20. I'm not sure because I really focused on what would be the 12. So as far as what comes after that, it's kind of an estimation. But a great album at any rate. Lou Reed, Berlin. We talked a little bit about that in the other album. Or other show, other part of this. And then it's the songs. Lot of songs to mention here. Live and Let Die, another Macca song from '73. He was
united with George Martin.
Right. Yeah, that's right. He was in Fuego, and then so I guess we could talk a little bit about the other Beatles. We've mentioned it a lot already, but Living in the Material World I think is a really great album. It has Gimme Love, has "Be Here Now." Just for those two songs alone, that would be enough. Try Some, Buy Some. I like a lot. A lot of, it's just maybe not as good as All Things Must Pass, but what are you going to do? You're not going to duplicate that.
Yeah, George really maybe wasn't as into being a solo guy, but yeah, some really solid records, and Don't Let Me Wait Too Long is a really fun song on this record, and yeah, good year for the Beatles, even though they weren't the Beatles anymore.
Yeah, and Ringo had a little help from his friend George on with "Photograph." That's one of the songs included on my list. "Photograph," I think that's probably my favorite Ringo song ever. I don't have as much to say about Ringo. I'm just going to be honest. His solo career is not what the other ones were, but
I think his solo career is totally charming. Like he was already
that's the word for it. Yeah.
Just like a totally likable guy, really talented. And when he does his solo career, I think his first album is just like kind of like standards, right? And then he he doesn't take it too seriously, but on the other hand, I think the Ringo Starr and the All Stars touring band is probably put next to Macca, probably the most miles on the road.
Sure. Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Ringo album that came out in '73 is actually a good album. Not as good as
self-titled Ringo. Yeah, Ringo by
yeah,
Ringo.
not as good as the other former Beatle albums that came out in '73, but
we can disagree, but that's cool.
Sure. Yeah. I'll defend my case on that.
I would say as an album, Ringo by Ringo is more of a consistent and fun front to back listen than Mind Games, even though I like a lot of the tracks on Mind Games by John Lennon.
Yeah, agree to disagree, I suppose. But like I said, I think it's a good enough album. I don't think you're way off base with that. But basically, I think Mind Games is a good album. So I'm not pitting something I think is junk against the Ringo album, but just it was a good year overall for those guys.
Yeah, and I really invite anyone who has Mind Games on LP to just like, take a moment, don't check your Twitters or whatever, and just like, really spend a moment communing with the album art. I think that Mind Games is one of the. It's a really great, beautiful cover, and the art really ties together a lot of what I think he's trying to say on that record.
Yeah, so that's the Beatles and the former Beatles in 1973, and something I've done and recommend doing is taking the post Beatles stuff and making a playlist where you mix all of it together as if the Beatles never really broke up. That was a thing I had fun doing, and I instead of pointing you toward my playlist, I'll just say make your own. Do your own thing with it.
Right on, man.
Okay, so yeah, Susie Quattro Can the Can mentioned that in the glam stuff. Aerosmith, Dream On, the Aerosmith debut was that year. I don't love them as people, but at least in this era, they made some really good music.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
that's
I don't think I would want to spend time with them, but I do like some of the music. Let's see, Mott the Hoople, we have talked a little bit about. The band Canned, Future Days.
Future Days is a really, really solid record.
Yep.
1973, Krautrock.
Which, you know, is a term that doesn't mean a whole lot other than that's where they come from. It doesn't really describe a sound, but it does let you know that they're from Germany.
I think it qualifies a few things. I mean, you can, if you say an album is krautrock, I think that you can expect the songs to be longer than 6 minutes.
Okay.
And a
The
lot of
signifiers are.
yeah, so like, you know, the songs are longer and embrace of new technology, especially with, you know, like Kraftwerk. So you have like lots of early synths and drum machines and such like that.
Oh, and I almost missed one here. So the Beach Boys had Holland in 1973. Definitely the standout track on the album is "Sail on Sailor." Blondie Chaplin on lead vocals. Short time Beach Boy, but definitely if you're going to be a short timer with the Beach Boys, doing the lead vocal on a song like "Sail on Sailor," I think is a good way to stamp your legacy on the band, you know.
Right. And then I think he went on to terrorize the Rolling Stones for a while in the 70s and 80s. Is that right? Lonnie Chapman?
You mean as far as doing guest spots on the albums?
Just like showing up and not leaving, you know?
Oh, okay, just hanging out.
It's like, oh, Blondie Chapman's here again. Turn off the lights. Pretend you're not home.
Yeah. Let me see. ELO, Electric Light Orchestra, had the album on the third day. Showdown is on my list. Fleetwood Mac, still pre Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks. Fleetwood Mac had the album Mystery to Me. I have the song Hypnotize off of that. George Jones and Tammy Wynette, We're Gonna Hold On. That was 73. Bob Marley and the Wailers, Stir It Up, 73.
Yeah, some good Bob Marley and the Wailers. Okay.
Maybe my favorite John Prine song is the title track to Sweet Revenge, and that definitely is on my list.
Okay.
Let me see. Roxy Music. Sly and the Family Stone, the album Fresh, I don't love as an album, but it does have If You Want Me to Stay on it, and that is an excellent track. One of the, I don't know, I think one of the best Sly and the Family Stone tracks.
Cool.
If You're Ready, Come Go With Me by the Staple Singers. Let me see. Yeah, T-Rex. 20th Century Boy was 1973.
Okay. Non-album. Is that a non-album single?
Yes. Bill Withers with one of the all-time great live albums, Bill Withers live at Carnegie Hall. You know, live albums don't really qualify as they don't really qualify for the top 12 because they're live albums. But definitely worth mentioning, though.
There are some exceptions for sure.
Well, and I guess another quasi live album would be "Time Fades Away" by Neil Young. It is a live album, but it's tracks. It's not like a greatest hits or any sort of monster set list. It's all tracks that hadn't appeared on any albums before. And the title track "Time Fades Away" is on my list, and "Journey Through the Past" also is on my list.
Uncle Neil.
That's right, Uncle Neil. The Spinners with their self-titled album. I'll Be Around, Could It Be I'm Falling in Love. Definitely have to make my songs list. Let me see. I'm not the biggest Lynyrd Skynyrd fan in the world, but "Tuesday's Gone" from Pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd is my favorite all-time song by them, and definitely worthy of making my songs list.
Huh.
No,
That's all I've got to say about that band.
no judgment on that one, or
Silent Judgment.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
This is
Tuesday's
this
Gone.
is the sound of silent judgment.
Like you can take your Sweet Home Alabama, but Tuesday's Gone is great. I love it.
Okay. Okay.
I'm an unabashed lover of that song.
Right on, man.
Maybe
Well,
less so the band.
yeah.
Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang, 73. Um, Across 110th Street by Bobby Womack, 73, makes my list. Whiz Kid by Mott the Hoople also makes my list. So we talked, I mentioned All the Way from Memphis before. Whiz Kid also has to make my 73 list. Let me
Right.
see. Yeah, so Black Sabbath, Sabbath Blaze Sabbath was 73. The title track to that makes my list. Um, so here's one. Here's maybe a more obscure one. Blossom Dearie. Do you know who that is?
No. What you got?
She did a lot of the songs on Schoolhouse Rock, and
Oh, yeah.
the song Figure Eight was from 73. So that also makes my song list from 73.
Okay.
And I think that wraps up my song list.
Okay. Well, 1973. If you want to know what's what, you found the right place.
Yeah, so for my list, you can go to our Spotify page, just search LOTD Pod, and the good Lord willing, you will come upon our page and find our playlist there.
That's right.
Yeah, so that any final thoughts on the year 1973, Richard?
I wish I was there at a record store with about $20, and you walk out with an armful of great records and 45s. It would have been. It was a very good year for music.
So I wonder if we can find out what an album cost in 1973. Do you think Google's that good? Let's find out.
I think I still have some of the price tags on a few of mine. I want to say it's like $2.95 or something. What do you say?
Well, so the first thing that came up on Google says 299 to 399, or retail prices being 498 to 598.
Huh.
Yeah, so
So there
yeah,
you
so
go.
it's still I'd be pretty happy with that. I mean, a lot of those albums from now, you're paying way more than that for for
Yeah,
the same used copy that somebody bought at 499 or whatever.
exactly. Yeah, it's the prime years of used record shopping are, I don't know if they're over, but they're definitely different than from when I was a youngster. But yeah, it's so cool that vinyl's making. I wouldn't say vinyl's making a comeback because it never really left for a lot of people. But definitely cool that a lot of titles that for a while you probably couldn't find in its kind of native format, you can now. So good for us. I think a lot of people, and by a lot of people, I'm talking about myself, have been practicing a lot of self care by buying records throughout this pandemic. So keep doing what you're doing. Don't ever change.
All right. Should we see where the flux capacitor is going to take us next?
Yeah, fire it up, man.
Okay, we're firing it up. All right, let's see. All right, so it looks like 2003 will be the next year.
Okay, it will be a 23-minute show, and yeah, sounds good.
All right. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. To me, every year has a lot of stuff, even the weak years. So after the behemoth, the unwieldy behemoth that 1973 was to try and rank albums for, I'll welcome a lesser year, but we'll see what it turns out to be.
Yeah. Do people have nostalgia for 2003 yet? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I mean, we're talking about, it's 18 years ago, so maybe they do.
Huh. Okay.
We got have some songs being fit for oldies lineups right now.
Yeah, some
From
really, really bad songs. Probably. Okay, good luck to all of us. We're gonna need it, man.
I say poo poo to that. I think it'll be fine.
There's
I
always good music coming out every year, but you know, a couple times when doing research for 1973, I kind of like lost my train of thought, and I was like, yes, 1983, so many good records. Oh, 1973, still so many good records. So to jump forward to 2003, I'm sure that there are good records that I loved at the time. Maybe I still love. Maybe I still play them, and I just kind of forget about where they slot in. But definitely a different feel.
yeah. And you know what? 2003 was the year you and I met. So
That's right. Yeah, we were both doing college radio. We started hanging out, seeing shows, and drinking beers and talking about guitars and ABBA and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
it was a fun year.
And so we're having a good time. So I'm sure, in addition to ABBA, that there was some current stuff that was making up the soundtrack. Backing our good times.
And we will discuss it.
We
And
will find out what they are. Yeah.
so, just to reiterate with our listeners, next week, what are we doing next week?
So next week, that's your baby. I will let you discuss it a little bit more, but it's a Bandcamp. You call it a Bandcamp scavenger hunt.
Yes, like a buried treasure. The idea is to find groups on Bandcamp that we like from out of the way places, maybe, and bands that are not supported by major labels or really like that popular. So we're hoping to find some groups that our nice listeners have not heard of.
And I think we'll accomplish it. But we'll see. Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up quick. This has been a lot of fun. 1973.
1973. Long live 1973.
It was a good one. So until next week, this is Richard Shirk in Oakland, signing off.
And this is Flick in Des Moines, Iowa. Sunny Des Moines, Iowa, where it's finally thawing.
Okay.
And we'll see you next week.
See you when I see you.